And I left you with the promise that this week I would give you something practical, a way to actually start teaching your body that visibility can be safe. There's a difference between understanding what it's true and embodying the change. We learn through gradual exposure at a pace that we can tolerate.
Sabrosura pa' ti que.
Welcome back to Café con Pam, the bilingual podcast that celebrates the power of stories, the medicine in our voices, and the magic of reclaiming who we are. Kind of like this intro better. 2 weeks ago, we talked about why being seen feels like a threat. We explored the visibility wound, what happens when you learned that being seen means being judged. We talked about Calladita Culture and the generations of conditioning that taught us that silence equals safety. We also looked at what's actually happening in your nervous system when freeze shows up before you speak up. And I left you with the promise that this week I would give you something practical, a way to actually start teaching your body that visibility can be safe. So that's what we're doing today. Pero primero, let's talk about why everything you've tried before probably hasn't worked. Yo soy Pam, this is Café con Pam, and let's get into it. Primero, people told you just be more confident. Do a power pose in the bathroom before your presentation. Repeat affirmations in the mirror. Fake it till you make it. And maybe you've tried it all. Maybe you've even read the books, done the exercises, told yourself 1,000 times that you belong in that room. I have been there. But here's my question. Did those things stop your voice from shaking? Did it stop you from rehearsing conversations for hours before and after? Did it stop the 3 a.m. spiral, wondering if you said the wrong thing or how you could have said it better? Probably not. And there's a reason why. Because confidence isn't something you manufacture through willpower. I will die on that hill. I've been there, and it's not a switch on and off switch. It's something that emerges when your nervous system finally feels safe. And you can't think your way into feeling safe being visible when your body has decades of data that says that being seen equals being criticized or being judged or it's shameful or whatever it is. And I'm saying decades, and it could be generations. Peter Levine, the founder of Somatic Experiencing and author of Waking the Tiger, explains that trauma doesn't just live out in our memories. It also lives in our bodies, in our nervous systems. And you cannot resolve a body level response through thoughts only. You need what he calls bottom-up processing, working with your body, not just with your mind. And Peter Levine and his training goes very much hand in hand with the training that I did for EFT, for tapping. In EFT, we also use bottom-up. A lot of the principles from somatic experiencing are super connected with my clinical EFT practitioner training. So when you try to just be confident, what's actually happening is we have our conscious mind who says, I can do this. I belong here. I am prepared. But then deep down inside, your nervous system, which operates below conscious awareness, is actually saying there's danger. There's a threat that's detected. You have to do something to protect yourself because the role of your nervous system, of your limbic brain, your emotional brain, is to keep you safe. And guess who wins? Obviously, the limbic brain. Every time, your nervous system. And this is why affirmations feel hollow. This is why you can know that you are qualified. You can know that you have all the skill sets, and you may still feel like a fraud. This is why you can understand intellectually that you deserve to take up space and still shrink when it's your turn to speak. There's a difference between understanding what it's true and embodying the change. So, what happens when you try to override your nervous system through sheer force? Because let's be real, a lot of us push through. A lot of us white knuckle your way through the presentation. And a lot of us force ourselves to speak up. I've done it many times. But what happens? It leaves you depleted because what's actually happening is not sustainable confidence. You're overriding your alarm system, your internal, your body's alarm system through willpower only. And it's bypassing. And bypassing has a cost, obviously, because eventually your system will say, I can't sustain this anymore. And that's when burnout hits. That's when you start avoiding situations that require visibility altogether. That's when your body starts saying, we're not going to do this in ways that you cannot ignore anymore by anxiety, insomnia, even illness, because the body will start communicating with you and will start giving you boundaries. Because forced confidence, doesn't work. So, what does? What does work is teaching your nervous system through slowly, gentle, and consistent practices. We are slowly teaching it that visibility can be safe. And this is why my work, I always have said since the beginning of time that my work requires spaciousness. I never show up telling you we're going to get this done in 2 weeks or in 6 weeks or in whatever that is, because every system is different. I have clients that get changes within 4 weeks of working together, and it's amazing. I have clients that I've worked with for 7 years, and we are still, there's been changes, but there are still ways that they need more spaciousness, more time, as we see in this realm, but their bodies just need a little bit more than some fast paced program, because everybody's different. And for some of us, we need more space to understand that visibility can be safe. And so, a concept that changed for me when I was going through my EFT, emotional freedom techniques tapping training, was learning about titration. And it does come from the work of Dr. Pino Levine, who studied nervous system work like a lot. And what it means is it works, you work with your trauma in small, manageable doses. Because what that does is it gives your nervous system information that it can actually have integration without becoming overwhelmed. In other words, I don't know, I have my water bottle here, and sometimes I'll give you an analogy for titration. So if you are filling up the water bottle and you open the faucet like at its maximum capacity, what happens? It goes like, and then like it starts bubbling up and it shoots out uncontrollably. That's when you do it like fast and furious. Whereas when you do it slowly, and I have to remind myself of this because sometimes I'm like, let me fill my water bottle because I have a call in 5 minutes. But when you do it slowly, it actually allows the water to gradually increase, and you can actually see when it's time to stop without spilling everything or having to refill it again or whatever it is. That's integration, and that allows your system to not feel so overwhelmed. Another way to put this is when you are asleep and it's dark, let's say, and all of a sudden somebody turns the light on, what happens? Your eyes, all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, I can't see anything. You have to shield your eyes because too much, too fast is not sustainable. It's just the reality of it. And I know we live in a world that glorifies fast and furious, but our bodies don't like that. Now, if somebody was to raise a dimmer switch or slowly, this is how actually the sun raises. That's how the sun wakes us up. It's a slow dimmer. It's not like an immediate like it's daylight. You gradually get an increase of light and then our eyes can adjust. Because what that does is it lets the brightness into our body in doses that are manageable and that we can handle. And that's how titration works. That's how you can actually heal your nervous system. And so, what I want us to ground ourselves in is the idea that visibility is an all or nothing. It's not. Either you're hiding or you're fully exposed, and either you're silent or you're on a stage. That's not how we teach our nervous system safety. We learn through gradual exposure at a pace that we can tolerate. Dr. Levine puts it this way. You want to approach the activation slowly, touch into it briefly, and then resource yourself back to safety. Then touch it again. Then resource yourself again. Then back and forth in small doses. So I think about flipping a tortilla. So when you have the comal and you have your tortilla, you're not just holding the tortilla and like flipping it immediately, right? Like you grab it quickly and then you flip it and then you're like, oh, let me let my fingers just get a little bit back to regular temperature. And then once it's ready, you flip it again and you do it in ways that in this case, your fingers can understand that you're not getting burnt. And so in my work, we call these micro moments. We appreciate micro moments so much. And these are small acts of being seen that teach your nervous system you can be visible and still be safe. This is not getting on a TED Talk stage. This is not going viral. This is not a confrontation with your boss or with everyone who told you to be quiet or your biggest bully. It's 3 minutes, 3 minutes of visibility. That's where we start. And so I'm going to give you the practice. This is a technique or a practice designed to help you build safety through micro moments. And it has 3 parts: before, during, and after your visibility moment. So the before is your prep. So there's a difference between preparation and rehearsal. Okay, this is preparation. Rehearsing is going over your content 40, 57 times, hoping you finally feel ready. That's anxiety management. This is not nervous system regulation. Preparation is when you're getting your body ready to present. And technically, we could say that we only need 60 seconds. So before your visibility moment, whether it's a meeting, a presentation, a difficult conversation, whatever that is, you want to give yourself 1 minute to get in the body. And I'll give you a couple of options. One, the simplest way to do this is to put your feet flat on the floor. If you can take your shoes off, great. And I'm considering that you're going to be in an environment where you can't just like start tapping. So I'm not going to give you a tapping sequence this time because I want to give you practical tools that you can use in any situation where tapping might just be a lot. So if you can take your shoes off, if you're in a meeting, I mean, you can always take your shoes off and plant them on the floor. Feel the chair supporting you. Allow gravity to hold your body. Okay? And you want to take some breaths. You want to take some breaths, and I'm going to give you now, we're going to use our fingers. So we're simply going to use our index, our middle finger, and our pinky. All you have to remember is 1, 2, and 3 is the last one. There's no point on your ring finger. So, because I'm an EFT practitioner, obviously, we're going to do a little tapping, but it doesn't have to be elaborate tapping. It's very simple. And what happens is that if you're just listening to me, you're going to use your thumb on the side of your index finger, like this. If you're watching, it's like this. So your thumb, your fingerprint of your thumb will touch the side of your index finger. Okay? The point on your index, because I know you will ask, is your large intestine. Okay? So what you want to tune into, because we're connecting to the body. I know I'm giving you this in longer than 60 seconds, but you want to put your thumb and then you can take a breath, and just by touching the large intestine point, your body will shift to give you a belly breath. Try it with me. Okay, then we move into the middle finger. So it's thumb, side of your fingernail. Okay, and so all you have to do is switch, and then you take a breath. And the point and the thumb is connected to, it's also considered your heart protector point. So it's connected to the heart. It's not the heart point, but it's connected to it. And so putting your finger on the side of your nail like this, Now your breath will come to the top of your body. Okay? And then we go back to we actually go to the pinky next, which is same thing, the fingerprint of our thumb into the side of our pinky nail. If you have that um, flexibility in your fingers, if not, you can switch between index and middle, whatever works for you. But I like the pinky because the pinky is actually the heart. So you're going to breathe one more time, and you're going to feel how your chest is what's going to fill up your lungs, the upper part of your body. And then we switch back to the index and we do a belly breath again. So you can just switch back and forth if you want to make it super easy for you between index and middle finger, index and middle finger. And so that's what you're going to do and breathe for 60 seconds. And so not only are you connecting your breath, you're also tuning into the movement in your body. So that is allowing you to for your brain to say, okay, I have a body, my body is here, and I am safe in this moment. Okay, so what this does is it signals your nervous system that we are present, that we are resourced, and that we are okay in this moment, in these 60 seconds. We're good. Paso número dos, step number 2, that's when we acknowledge the activation. So if this is the first time you're stepping into visibility, notice what's happening in your body and notice without judgment. You can do this in 30 seconds. Maybe you can feel your heart racing. This is simple information. This is not evidence that something is wrong. It's your body communicating with you. Maybe you feel your throat tight. This is your body protecting you. This is not proof that you can't speak. This is not proof that you don't have a voice. It's your body saying, oof, how can I hold you? Maybe you feel a little tickle, like some butterflies. Maybe you could say that you're nervous. That makes sense because we've already talked about how your body is giving you signals. It's simple communication that your body is telling you, hey, we are noticing something that doesn't feel familiar. In some way, it doesn't feel safe. And we allow ourselves to witness because the body just wants to feel seen. And ironically, the more you fight the activation, the stronger it gets. And it's happened to me. It happened to me before. I was in a call and I was nervous because I was asked a question that I needed to come back with a very strong answer. And I knew the answer. But when the question came in, it was kind of like a little aggressive in a way. Now, thinking back, it wasn't aggressive, but that's how my body received it actually. And so that activated me. I didn't give myself the 30 seconds to pause, acknowledge, and witness. And so then I started talking really fast because I fought the activation. My immediate natural response was, let me just answer this as quickly as possible so I can get off, I can mute myself again, and then just be done with it. Well, obviously, ironically, we knew this. I fought the activation and it got stronger. And so I almost had to reel myself back to slow down once I started talking super fast because I could see the other person on the other side, their eyes wide open, like, whoa, calm your horses, speed it down a little bit. So it may not feel natural as you're in it, but the more you witness it with compassion, with grace, the more it will settle because those feelings are simply wanting to be seen. Now, you want to also set a micro goal. A micro goal is more attainable and it's more sustainable. So, what you don't want to say is, I'm going to crush the presentation because I'm the best. Sometimes that works, but truly, a micro goal would be, I'm going to speak for 3 minutes and then I'm going to assess. Okay? You don't want to say, I'm going to be confident the whole meeting. You could say instead, a micro goal would be, I'm going to make one point clearly. What we don't want to say is, I'm not going to be nervous because remember, the brain doesn't understand no. So, or I'm going to stop being nervous. If you want to argue with me and be like, there's other ways to say it. So you don't want to say, I'm going to stop being nervous because it's too big. You can't, again, you can't just have the lights off and then turn them on and be good. You want to dim it. So you could say, I'm going to let my voice be heard for 2 minutes, for a minute and a half. Okay. We all know this. Talking about money is not always the most comfortable. Pero our friends from Savvy Ladies make it easier. And now en español. You don't have to feel the pressure to translate for your mamá or your tías because Savvy Ladies has their whole site en nuestro idioma. Y ahora they can easily access their free resources like talleres, clases, y mi favorita es la línea gratis para enviar preguntas. Their free financial helpline en donde puedes conectar with a trusted financial expert. Whether you need financial guidance in English or in Espanol, Savvy Ladies is here to support you. Visit savvyladies.org, that is SAVVYLADIES.org, para empezar your financial freedom. Here's the thing. Latina families have been saving money forever. From reusing plastic containers for comida, folding up plastic bags under the sink, and diluting dish soap with water. The last thing we need is to pay fees to access our money, right? Pues, in case you didn't know, BMO customers have access to 40,000 fee-free ATMs across the United States. Plus, their BMO Smart Advantage checking account has no monthly maintenance fee. Learn more about how BMO can help by visiting bmo.com/checking. bmo.com/checking. Conditions apply. Accounts provided in the United States by BMO Bank, NA member FDIC. To recap the preparation, because I know I kind of like expanded. So 60 seconds you ground your body. 30 seconds you acknowledge what feels activated. And 30 seconds you set a micro goal. Okay? So that's 2 minutes of preparation. And it's simple, it's short enough that your nervous system won't flood with panic. And it's long enough that you can build real evidence to say, I did this for 2 minutes and I survived and I was visible and it worked out. Moving on to the during. Now you're in the moment. Now you've chosen to unmute yourself and speak up. You want to keep your feet grounded. You want to wiggle your toes, feel the floor. If I'm able to take my shoes off, then I do carpet scratches with your toes if you can. Just feel the floor. And speak slower than feels natural. You can go back to the exercise with your fingers. Okay? If you want to do all fingers, if you're like, it feels weird to skip it, be my guest. But you can go back. As you can see, I'm doing it right now. And immediately my body was like, oh, let me give you a sigh. Because that's a signal that I'm giving my body, I am here and I'm with you, body. You want to make eye contact with one friendly face, with one anchor, with a camera, whatever is feels anchoring to you. It could be a window, it could be a tree outside, whatever that is. What you want to make sure is when you're anchored, so your body anchors with your feet being on the floor, you could be doing the breathing. You can do dual fingers, you can do 1, 2 fingers, you can do one finger. When you're doing the breathing, you're anchoring yourself in your body, and then you can anchor yourself outward. So your inner anchoring is feet on floor, tapping, breathing. Your outer anchor could be another person. If you're talking to the masses, it could be one person, or it could be a painting or a tree or whatever it is, something that gets you to feel safe. The goal here is for you to deliver the first sentence clearly. Okay? No más, nada más. The first sentence, not the whole presentation, not the whole thing. The first sentence. Because what we want to remind ourselves is that you know what you're talking about. And if you're able to deliver the first sentence, we good. So you want to trust that you know everything. You know what you need to say. Now, in the event that if you stumble, pause. because a pause allows you to look confident, because a pause allows your nervous system to recalibrate, and it lets your body feel kind of like settle back into itself. So you can do it like literally count 1, 2, 3, use your fingers, and then go on. The best speakers actually do great pauses because they know that with every pause, confidence is emerging. A way that I remind myself when it comes to pausing when I'm speaking is blinking. And I remember once I saw a video of a filmmaker who was asked, "How do I make sure when to edit cuts, when to cut a scene? When do I know it's time for a cut?" And he said, "It's in the blinking." So when I notice that the actors in the scene they blink, it's a time to cut. And so when it's a time to pause is when you need a breath. And so give yourself the gift of breathing. So your quick internal scan could be, am I breathing? If not, take a breath. Allow yourself to pause. Once you're breathing again, continue. You've made it through the hardest part. Because after 3 minutes, usually the conversation or the talk or whatever it is, your activation has settled. If you're still flooded, if you still feel like you're activated, then you could absolutely say, you know what? Let me pause and open for questions, or let me pause and take a sip of water. I want to make sure I'm being clear. Any thoughts so far? That allows you to continue to take up the space and regulate yourself in action, which is really cool. I do this all the time. I do this when I'm coaching people. I do this when I'm speaking. Like, you know what? When I'm teaching, especially when I'm teaching, like, I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'm going to let you all think about any questions that may come up. And I take my sip of water and I enjoy it. And I don't have to rush through my words because I feel like me resourcing myself with water is taking away time from what I'm teaching. It's not. We're all human. Después sigue la parte número 3, which is integration. This is the most important part. And this is the part that most people skip because we tend to go from one thing to the next one. And integration is when we celebrate the micro wins. Integration is when we allow our body to process what just happened and settle in that new truth. Because a micro win is literally, I showed up. I hit the unmute button and I said what I needed to say. Or even, like I put it in the example last time, maybe you typed it up. Maybe you weren't quite ready. Maybe you were like, you know what? I don't know if I can quite do the voice thing and actually say what I think, but I can type it. Maybe you didn't wait for someone else to say it. You did it. That's a micro moment. That's a micro win. And we want to give ourselves the space to honor that, to tune into it, because it's the data that will feed into the nervous system and it will create new neural pathways. It will create new beliefs around this new evidence that we have created. Because the body, because of negativity bias, the body will always remember pain over gain. But we have to be very diligent. We have to be conscious about gain. The body naturally will forget the gain unless it's a core memory. And so what we want to do is we want to be conscious about filing gainful things or filing wins. So the body doesn't file this moment as, that stressful meeting where I had clammy palms or I was sweating and, I guess I did say something. Instead, we could consciously say, you know what? I'm going to file this as the meeting where I spoke up, as the evidence that visibility is safe, as a moment of aligned action for me. You see the difference? And then maybe when you get home, if you can do it as soon as possible, part of the integration is to process. And there's a difference between process and spiral. So what we want is we want to process. Usually, we tend to spiral. And so, three questions that you want to ask yourself: what felt hard? What felt good? And what would I do different? These three questions, simple, super important though, because that allows us to process and not spiral. Processing is what can I learn? Spiraling is what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Why did I say that word? Why didn't I say a different word? So we want to process because process builds wisdom and spiraling reinforces the wound. We want to honor all the feelings. So if you feel activated afterward, we want to make sure that we let the body complete the stress cycle. And the stress cycle looks different for everyone. Most of the times for me, if I feel activated after a moment and I couldn't regulate during, then I either take myself for a walk, I stretch. Sometimes I remember one time I had a really intense call and I couldn't even get up. I was so activated still. And so I started tapping and immediately tears started flowing and I allowed myself to have a super good, really solid cry and feel it all. And that completed my stress cycle because my body had been holding so much during the negotiation in this case. And so once I completed the stress cycle, took 5 minutes of a good cry, I was done. I was able to get up. I walked my dog. I had lunch. It was fun. It was fine. So for me, it's tapping, of course. If you want me to do a post tapping sequence, I would love to do that. This is something that you would do on your own. Usually, you're not tapping in a meeting, so that's why I want to give you something more practical in this episode. But let me know. Let me know if you want me to do the post event tapping sequence. I would love to do that. Because the goal ultimately is to help your body return to baseline. What we don't want is your body to carry the activation into your next visibility moment because the body is really wise. Our bodies are pretty cool. So you won't necessarily stay activated, so you won't feel the activation. But any other time when the body catches this feeling of familiarity, it will be like, ooh, let me go pull from whatever we decided to store this, and we're going to bring it back up to you. So what we want by completing the stress cycle is to release it, and then you go on with your life. So why does this approach work when just be confident doesn't work? Well, because we're not asking your nervous system just to make a giant leap. It's not just jump super big because we're building evidence slowly. We're training for a marathon. This is not a sprint. We want to show your system you can be visible for 1 or 2 minutes, for 3 minutes. Then you increase it for 5 minutes. Then you increase it for 10 minutes. Then you say, I own this whole presentation, this whole 60-minute thing. And eventually you'll be like, let's go. We can do this without preparation because you've already built enough evidence, o callo, como decimos. You've built enough foundation that you don't need to be so prepared. And truly what happens is that each time your nervous system gets new information, it compounds. And so this compounding eventually becomes as being seen doesn't destroy me. Being seen is okay. And that is titration and how trauma heals. Trauma doesn't heal through one big breakthrough moment. It could. Most of the time is through an accumulation of micro experiences that slowly begin contradicting the old data, and then you start compounding. You release the old information and then you replace it with new one. That's how it works. And I want to connect this back to something deeper. In my body of work, in my framework, I talk about values and how values guide me through or can guide you through moving through the world. And 3 of my values are relevant in this conversation. The first one is ready, willing, able. And this is basically courage in action. It's not a fake it till you make it. It's try it even though I'm scared. And it's moving forward despite fear because we all deserve to try without stretching us so much, though. And this is where the second one comes grace. Grace is honoring our shared humanity through mutual compassion. This includes grace for yourself. Grace that says, my body's response makes complete sense given what I have learned. I'm just healing. Give yourself grace. And the third one is trust unfolding. And this is steadfast confidence that begins with trusting yourself, that extends and then extends to trusting the process, your timeline, and even the slow shifts. Everyone is in their own journey. Don't compare. Trust your own path and trust that your own visibility, you are building safety in your own timeline. And for some of you, it's going to be quick and easy. For some of you, it's going to take a little longer. Either way, it's okay because it's not a race. You're not falling behind. Behind what? You're choosing to do the work that most people skip. Because the majority of people don't understand that confidence is actually a nervous system state. It's not a personality trait. People are not born confident. So every time you practice the first 3 minutes, you're not just getting through a moment, you are rewiring your all complete whole relationship with visibility itself. And it's sacred work. So I hope you give it the time it deserves. All right, let's bring this home. Being seen doesn't have to feel like being exposed. Visibility doesn't have to equal vulnerability. There's a difference. Your voice, even when it shakes, is not evidence that you don't belong. It's evidence that you are being brave enough to show up anyway. And what I would love for you to remember is that your body is protecting you based on information. We give information, new information, slowly, gently, tenderly, that's when in doses we get to integrate that new information. We don't force confidence. We don't fake it till we make it. We don't override our nervous system's alarm. We show up in tiny micro moments 3 minutes, three more, three more, three more. Because confidence will never arrive in a big leap. Confidence is built through 1,000 small moments where you were visible and where you survived. So, the truth about your visibility wound is that it's your body's intelligent response to a word that taught you that being seen was dangerous. And hopefully, after today, you teach your body something different. You're teaching it that your voice matters, that your presence is valuable, that being seen can be safe. And that's the ongoing work that we're here to do. Because you can start building safety your body can trust. You want to. If this resonated with you, if you are ready to start healing your visibility wound, your homework for this week is to identify one low stakes visibility opportunity. Maybe could be speaking up at a team check-in. Maybe could be commenting on someone's post. Maybe could be sending a voice note instead of a text. I find it really fascinating. I love sending people voice notes, and I find it fascinating when people are like, oh, no, I don't like sending voice notes because I don't like hearing myself. And I'm like, what? I mean, you don't have to re-listen to it. You can just send the voice note. I don't know. Not judging, simply observing. But then once you do whatever your activity is that you choose, your low stakes visibility activity, then tune in and notice, did anything terrible happen? I can probably give you a spoiler that it didn't. Nothing terrible will happen. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper and you want to understand which wound may be running your life, so you can name it and we can actually work on it, you can work on it. You can take the Calladita Culture quiz. And the Calladita Culture quiz, you can find it at cafeconpam.com/quiz. We'll have the link in the show notes. And this is where you can uncover that wound of the 5 wounds that keep us quiet, overworked, underpaid, and just undervalued in so many ways. Like there's so many words. But remember, your truth is not too much. Your truth is your power. Your truth is your medicine. Your truth is needed in this world. And thank you so, so much for being here. Continue siempre, siempre, siempre. Sigue brillando. Café con Pam is created con mucho amor by our small but mighty team. Content production by Nancy Jaimes. Podcast management by Maru Linardi. Social media and marketing by Brenda Figueroa. And me, your host, Pam Covarrubias. To keep the cafecito brewing and the healing flowing, join the Supporters Club for only $5 a month and access early episodes, behind-the-scenes vibes, and exclusive minisodes you won't hear anywhere else. Screenshot this episode and tag me and share what resonated. I love seeing your takeaways. Follow on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's keep the conversation going with us on social media at Café con Pan Podcast because your voice always matters there. We love being on Instagram and Facebook. Gracias for listening to Café con Pan, a Spread Ideas Move People production. For more episodes, guest info, or resources, visit cafeconpam.com. And if you're healing from Calladita Culture and don't know where to start, you can take the quiz. cafeconpam.com/quiz for Tia Wisdom and cariño just for you.
Sabrosura pa' ti que